Last night, the wrestling attempted to give us something real. They wanted to change the game up a little bit and give us something that maybe made us ask the question of, oh, that can't have been pretend. Oh, that's a little bit close. And you know what? They succeeded in doing so. But I ain't talking about Raw Underground. This is Raw Graded. Samoa Joe is on hand at the very beginning. He is overseeing the contract signing between Seth Rollins and Dominik Mysterio for SummerSlam. Joe and Seth get into it verbally. Joe can't touch Seth because Joe's not medically cleared to wrestle. Dominik comes out second. He has new theme music, which is a bit of a remix of his dad's music, which is nice. He's wearing a t-shirt paying homage to his dad, and he's got a kendo stick, which he hands over to Samoa Joe during the signing. Seth Rollins talks about how everything he's doing is for the greater good, and he has been forced into this match with Dominik Mysterio. Joe is reputing this, and it's Dominik actually who turns around and says, no, everything you've done for the greater good is for yourself. And my dream was to wrestle, but my new dream is to kick your bottom at SummerSlam. Both guys sign the contract, and the match is made official. Shortly after this, we have a match. Seth Rollins takes on Humberto Carrillo. Dominik sticks around at ringside, just holding on to that kendo stick, because you never know. A good back and forth, fast-paced match between these guys. We see Humberto going up to the top rope for the finish, but Murphy jumps onto the ring apron to distract him, and here comes Dom with the kendo stick, wipes out Murphy, but it's just the distraction has allowed Seth some time to recover. So as Humberto comes off the top rope, he eats a big old boot by Seth, a powerbomb, and the curb stomp for the 1, 2, 3. The moment the bell sounds, Murphy jumps Dominik Mysterio, and then we get things you may have already seen some pictures of the aftermath of if you've been online today, where Seth Rollins just mercilessly batters Dominik Mysterio with this kendo stick. Takes off his shirt, and you just see him just cracking this stick over the back of Dominik, ties him up in the ropes, and just continues to lay into him, all the while taunting Rey Mysterio down the camera. They eventually end up breaking the kendo stick, but it's all right because Murphy's got a load more. Brings him out from under the ring, and you've got Murphy whipping the back of Dominik, Seth whipping the front. It was just, it was uncomfortable watching because you're just seeing all these welts appearing on this young lad's body. Eventually they untie him from the ropes, and Seth goes for the curb stomp, but Dom is too weak to even pull himself up into position for it. So Seth and Murphy just walk away. And geez, the state of Dominik at the end of this. Oh, geez. As uncomfortable as this was a really good way to start Raw. So I'm giving it an A. Seth was just in his element here. Like, Seth as the Monday Night Messiah is peak Seth Rollins. He's owning this character at the moment. Joe was great on the mic here as well, leading this contract signing. And Dominik played his part really well too. There's an element of sort of paying your dues that seems to come through in a segment like this. And as uncomfortable as it is, like, Dom would have been, in agreement to do it, and he took a beating like a trooper. What can I say? This is a really, really strong opening segment. I'm ready for this match at SummerSlam. After a recap of the rambunctiousness of Retribution, it is Andrade versus Angelo Dawkins in the ring. Zelina Vega continues to deny that she poisoned Montez Ford. No Ford tonight. Dawkins flying solo. As he's making his way to the ring, those technical difficulties rear their ugly head again. All the power disappears from Monday Night Raw. They also play this weird mashup. I assume it's something to do with Retribution. They play this weird mashup of like Mr. Iglesias and the Big Show show. Like, it looked awful. Apparently that was a real program. Fine. So the match goes on. Dawkins versus Andrade. And just as Vega's jumping onto the apron to distract everybody, here comes Bianca Belair, charges down to the ring, takes out Vega. This leads to Andrade eating the cash out for the 1, 2, 3. Dawkins gets the win. Immediately after this, Belair throws Zelina Vega into the ring, and it's time for their match. Immediately following this, it is Bianca Belair versus Zelina Vega. Vega is very quick quick here. She tries to outmaneuver Bianca Belair. She jumps on her back at one point with a naked choke, but Bianca Belair just overpowers her at every opportunity. But Bianca Belair's emotions get the better of her. It feels like every time she starts just flailing with strikes at the man who may have almost definitely poisoned her husband. This is where Vega will get a cheap shot in. At one point, she's punching her away in the corner, and Vega, when the referee is out of position, just quickly pokes Bianca Belair in the eye and takes advantage. Vega dominates for a good while, but the domination ends as Vega is punching Belair on the top rope. She turns it into a powerbomb, followed by an alley-up into the top turnbuckle, which looked really nice, and then the KOD for the 1, 2, 3. Belair is swearing vengeance on Zelina Vega for the poisoning of her husband, and Angelo Dawkins tells us that Montez Ford will be ready for SummerSlam, so the Raw Tag Team title match is very much on. Given those two matches a B+, I really liked how both of them flowed. Bianca Belair looked incredible in there as well. Vega looked really strong as well, and I like the extra wrinkle of the whole Montez Ford poisoning thing, as I feel like it gives this match something that it can stand out with at SummerSlam. After a recap of the US title match from last week, it is time for the VIP lounge. MVP is not in a celebratory mood. He does not want to pop champagne. He wants Lashley and Benjamin to pop some ligaments and tendons. And here comes a whole mass of ligaments and tendons in Apollo Crews, who is very much in his pomp after becoming the holder of that shiny new US title officially recently, and he's just rubbing it in the face of MVP. He talks about how MVP is blaming him for the technical glitches and the power outages and all that stuff, and Apollo Crews says that he's going to turn his lights out at SummerSlam. See what you did there. We see Crews rush the ring as Lashley stays in the ring. He ends up getting knocked around by Apollo Crews. Crews throws the sofa out of the VIP lounge as well, and when we come back from break, it is Apollo Crews versus Shelton Benjamin. Great back and forth with these two. Shelton Benjamin just hasn't lost a step since like 2002 when he arrived in WWE. I think he just looks stunning. Was he 02 or 03? Either way, it's a good long while in which he hasn't lost a step. He dominates for a big part of this one. Crews finally starts to make a comeback. As Crews is going for a dive, Lashley tries to grab his leg, which distracts Crews long enough for Shelton to get a roll up for the 1, 2, 3. Seconds after the bell sounds, Lashley jumps into the ring, goes to apply the full Nelson onto Crews, and MVP stops him, saying that he wants Apollo Crews to have no excuses come SummerSlam. And Apollo Crews says, "Thank you, MVP," in the traditional style of an enziguri to the head. And Crews takes a powder with the belt. Giving this a B, really good segment in the ring and a really good match that followed as well. Apollo Crews isn't particularly natural on the mic. He's not terrible, but he's not great. I think MVP working with him has really helped bring him along. I think this will be the final chapter of these guys come SummerSlam. So go out with a bang, lads. We see Retribution destroying a window at the Performance Center and then jumping around, celebrating and high-fiving each other. They now don't so much feel like this evil force looking to bring down Raw. They kind of come across a bunch of chavas that hang around Tesco on a Sunday night. The look has damaged it somewhat. We go backstage and we find out Mickie James is coming back to in-ring competition. She's interviewed by Mackenzie and says that she wants to lead the women's locker room and get some gold in the process. She's interrupted by Lana and Natalya, both wearing adorable matching dresses. Lana says that Mickie James can't be a leader if she hasn't got a TikTok. Haha, yeah, you shake that Laffy Taffy, girl. Natalya says she is the most winning women's champion. She is the Serena Williams of the women's division. She's the best of all time. The boat, if you will. That's a cool, trendy phrase. Mickie James just shuts them both down and says that Natalya should know better. She's been riding on the coattails of her family for a long time. And then says to Lana that boats sink. Hashtag that. See you next week. I think we're getting a match between Mickie James and Natalya next week. Don't know how you feel about that personally, but that's what we're having. I'm liking Mickie James back. I think Mickie James is one of those veterans of the women's division that can really add a little bit of something special to it. The Viking Raiders team with Cedric Alexander and Ricochet to face Akira, Tozawa and the Ninjas now. This is a nothing match, really. This is Cedric and Ricky doing some double teams, the Viking Raiders doing some double teams. We then have Tozawa and one of the Ninjas say, forget this, we're going, leaving one of the other Ninjas to take the Viking experience for the 1, 2, 3. As Tozawa is backing up the ramp, he is rolled up by the other Ninja for the 3, and the other Ninja wins the 24/7 championship. Oh wait, it's not the other Ninja though, is it? It's R-Truth. He was pretending to be a ninja all along. This was fine. There was nothing special to this at all. Match was just there. It was just a background to R-Truth and Akira Tozawa, the epic battle. Drew McIntyre backstage says he is going to snatch the torch that Mick Foley handed to Randy Orton at SummerSlam. Mackenzie Mitchell says, well, what happens if Kevin Owens beats Randy Orton tonight? Then Drew says he's going to have a conversation with Kevin about the future of Monday Night Raw. I like how even a little line like that can add a little bit of consequence to what should normally be just a standard exhibition match. I like that. A Riot Squad reunion up next as Liv Morgan is in action. She's got Ruby Riott in her corner, taking on Peyton Royce with Billie Kay in hers. The Iconics stir it up between the Riot Squad, but Morgan is just enraged and she starts really hot. Her and Peyton have a short, sharp back and forth match. Peyton starts to wear down Liv Morgan, and at one point, as Morgan's finally starting to get the beat back, we see Billie Kay jump onto the apron. Ruby Riott jumps up to shove her down. The referee sees Riott onto the ring apron, and this allows, in the confusion, for Peyton Royce to strike Liv Morgan and then hit that spinning brainbuster. I think it's now called the Deja Vu for the 1, 2, 3. Afterwards, Ruby is pleading her case with Liv Morgan, saying, I was trying to stop Billie Kay. Morgan doesn't look particularly pleased. C+ for this one. The irony of that finish now being called the Deja Vu. This feels like a bit of a retread of something we've had before. But saying that, if we get the Riot Squad Iconics tag match in the next couple of weeks to pay this off, and we can move on to other things, that's fine. It's 10 o'clock. That means it's time for Shane McMahon's Blood Sports Entertainment. It's Raw Underground. We start with Riddick Moss battering a boy senseless and then ripping his t-shirt off. So, good start. We'll come back to that in a bit. Asuka faces Bayley now. Asuka looking to punch her ticket to SummerSlam and face Sasha Banks for the Raw Women's Championship. So Asuka starts strong, big hip attack in the corner, and she is bouncing Bayley's head off the canvas and off the plexiglass. It's Bayley who takes over with a reverse Dominator out of the corner as Asuka's going to the top rope. That was a really, really nice move. About halfway through this, we see a little bit of a submission clinic put on by Bayley and Asuka as they go back and forth, swapping a whole number of submissions that come from out of nowhere. Like we see Asuka going for a drop kick and it gets turned into a side leg lock. We see Asuka out of nowhere applying a grounded octopus. There's another great moment where we've got Asuka laying in the kicks onto Bayley. Sasha jumps up for the momentary distraction, which means the next time she swings to kick, she gets into a grapevined ankle lock by Bayley. I really like the technical show-offery here. Bayley spends the most of this match, whenever she is on top, just berating Kairi Sane. Constant references of, she's gone forever, ha, stick that up your jumper. She doesn't say that. The end comes with Bayley mocking Kairi's pirate walk out of the corner, charges at Asuka across the ring and just flies straight into the Asuka lock and gets the tap out. And Asuka wins. She's on her way to SummerSlam to face Sasha Banks. Banks hits the ring afterwards as if she's going to come and face off against Asuka there and then, but Asuka rolls out of the ring and shakes her finger. See you at SummerSlam, Banks. Giving this one an A. The WWE workhorses show up to work once more. Bayley, Banks, Asuka, recently Kairi Sane. They've just been everywhere they go, putting on just some incredible wrestling performances. And Bayley and Asuka had a really solid match here that felt very different to previous encounters, and I like the way that they mix that up a bit. Every match they've had has just been great. I'm really up for Sasha Banks versus Asuka. I think in ring, it'll be their best work. As long as we avoid any stupid finishes, make it clean as a whistle either way, I'll be a happy camper. Back to Raw Underground, and Arturo Ruas is making his Raw debut. Remember him? he was teased to go to NXT last year, and then it never happened. He is a multi-time wrestling champion. I think he's a black belt in 400 different types of martial art, and he makes very quick, very effective work of another nameless guy just gets clattered and battered and dropped by Ruas. Lovely stuff. We then get, after the break, the return of Babatunde. I'm going to keep calling him Babatunde, I don't even care. He, once again, is just battering another guy in the middle of the squared circle, and finishes off this guy by throwing him to the ground several times, then grabbing him by the lads, by the chaps, grabbing him right there and giving him a big old squeeze for dropping him to the ground. So that is a technical knockout, I think that is. Okay. As he is celebrating beating a man via his bowels, Shayna Baszler turns up and sizes him up. I'm like, okay, can't beat her by her balls, so this should be fun. But then Babatunde steps down, and the challenge is then Shayna McMahon calls for a challenge for Shayna Baszler. Nobody steps into the ring, so Baszler goes out to the ring and just starts roughing some women up, throws them into the middle of the ring, and all three of them try and jump Baszler, but Baszler just takes all of them down with great class and skill. There's a couple of times where they nearly get on her, but she wipes them out pretty sharpish, and Shayna Baszler stands tall for our final Raw Underground segment of the night. So just the two this week, and you know what? That makes it an improvement on last week by default. I am giving this bit of Raw Underground a C+. Now, it's up from last week in terms of the grade. I still don't know what this is. And the thing is, I don't think WWE know what this is. They're trying to make this sort of earthy, real, undergroundy Fight Club type arrangement. But the problem is that there's no focus there. And some of it looks a little bit ropey. So I don't know what this is. And that's why I'm not grading it particularly high, because I don't get it right now. Maybe hey, this is my grade, so they're my opinions. But I'm not getting it right now. So it was better than last week, let's say that. It was better than last week. And also, didn't the Hurt Business buy Raw Underground last week? Like the Raw ended last week with Hurt Business going, hey, business is booming, this is ours now. And then it was never referenced again that they were anywhere near it. Like, make your mind up on what you're doing with this, you know? This is like buying roast chicken from the supermarket to cook for 4 people, and all 4 people want a different dish with it. Like, it's going to be 4 dishes with minimal ingredients. Why don't you all focus on making one dish really well? That's what this is. It is too many cooks spoiling the Raw Underground. Retribution, you naughty scamps. You've just turned a car upside down. And I feel like this is just become a group of chavs. That's what this is, all of a sudden. Like, they're not like a dangerous group of people. They're just a group of chavs and running roughshod over WWE. They turn this car upside down, and there's just like, you see them all jumping around going, yeah, we did it, we turned around a car. And then you can watch one of them holding hands with another as they get down off top of the car. It was very sweet. Retribution, chavs and friends. It's main event o'clock. It is Randy Orton with Ric Flair taking on Kevin Owens. A match set up last week where Kev and Rick had a little bit of a backstage falling out that led to Rick saying, I tell you what, why don't you face Randy Orton next week? There we go. That's a thing that happened, kind of, sort of. Owens starts really hot in this match. Early attempts at both a stunner and an RKO. Kev takes the lead. Cannonball outside of the ring, and Kev's really controlling this one for the longest of times. It isn't until Orton throws him into the steel steps that Orton starts to turn the tide back his way. Slow, methodical beatdown of Kevin Owens. Once Owens starts on the fight back, he knocks Orton off the top rope, hits a swanton for a near fall. Then we see Owens doing the Viper stance. He's obviously spinning the N64 control anti-clockwise in order to hit his opponent's taunt. But as Orton stands up, Kev goes for the stunner. Kev ends up eating an RKO. A 1, 2, 3, very suddenly, quite literally, from out of nowhere. Orton and Flair celebrate at the end of the match. Orton gets the mic and says, Flair, we need to talk. Anybody that has been in a relationship knows that's always bad news. That is always bad news. Orton says that he respected Ric Flair, loved Ric Flair for years, says that Ric Flair has always had his back. He references an incident in 2002 where Ric Flair was there to bail him out. I don't know what that is. I've looked it up. I can't find anything. Either it was something storyline-wise on an episode of Raw, or, I don't know, maybe Randy Orton was caught short trying to buy a curly whirly, didn't have his wallet with him, so Flair bought it. I don't know, something happened. Orton says that Flair is a liability after getting him into that match with Kevin Owens, but he can't be angry with him, but he says he doesn't respect him anymore. And then Orton really goes for the jugular on Ric Flair. He says that you are not the same Ric Flair as you were those years ago. You are not the same Ric Flair, because the Ric Flair that I know wouldn't have a pacemaker fitted to make sure his heart is still ticking. The Ric Flair I know wouldn't have spent a month in a coma a few summers ago. He says that he's lost his respect and he is just, all he wants now is the spotlight. Just really goes for it. You can see that Ric Flair is tearing up and he's encouraging Ric Flair to cry. Flair takes the microphone and he admits he's not the same Ric Flair that he was. And he admits that he loves the spotlight. He says he's at 71 years old and he's on Raw. He says Hulk Hogan calls him and asks him what it's like. He says all he wants to do is stand by Randy Orton's side as Randy Orton beats his world title record. That's all he wants to do now. He talks about how when he came out of that coma, that he rang everybody that he loved to tell them what they meant to him, because his life changed from there. And he says that he wants to spend his years now with Randy Orton, the best wrestler in the business, and watch him beat his record. It's a really amazing, powerful, emotive bit by Ric Flair, and you could tell this gets to Randy Orton as Orton just pulls him in and embraces him, and the crowd applaud. And as Ric Flair turns his back, Orton low blows Ric Flair, and you can hear the shock in the room. He gently lowers Ric Flair to the canvas, gently lowers him down, whispers something in his ear, takes a couple of steps back, and then the lights go out for a brief second, then come back on. I feel like that was a misstep, but it adds to it, because you briefly for a second there think someone's coming out to save Flair, and nobody does. When the lights are back on, Orton sizes up Flair, runs towards him, lights go out again. You hear the oof, lights come back up, and there's Ric Flair, out cold in the center of the ring. Orton standing over him. Orton's just punt-kicked Ric Flair. And you see just enough to get it. Orton punt-kicks Ric Flair. Drew McIntyre charges to the ring. Orton runs off. And Drew is just screaming blue murder at Randy Orton, saying he's going to get what's coming to him at SummerSlam. And the medics come out to check on Ric Flair. And the last sight that we see is Randy Orton just glazed over, staring at Drew McIntyre, and you just see this maniacal face appear on the face of Randy Orton, and you see Drew staring right back. A+. This was A+. Great match between Kev and Orton. Really good match between these guys, but it was a backdrop to what we saw here, which was the punting of Ric Flair. And the heartbreaking punting of Ric Flair. Flair was magnificent on the mic here. Orton was superb on the mic here. And the whole way this played out was just perfect. And what I loved about this, and it's an extra caveat that they threw in, and I thought this was excellent, was how that Drew McIntyre comes out at the end. And Drew McIntyre is the one that's saying, you're going to pay for this, Orton. And immediately, this incredible angle isn't lost, because all that energy, all that heat, all that fury transfers to Drew, and the focus once again becomes Drew and Orton at SummerSlam, because that's what the focus is. That's what it should always be. It's that. And it's that little touch that just puts this over the edge for me, because it's a reminder that, hey, this is what the story's all about. It's brilliant. This is an A+. Orton this year, faultless. I have really gone to town on Orton on Graded over the last year especially, because Orton was phoning it in. This is not Orton phoning it in. This is Orton dialing it up to 11. This is brilliant. This is brilliant Randy Orton. Excellent Ric Flair. Great way to end Raw. Love this. Can't fault this. It's an A+. As for Raw overall, the average grade calculator brings it out And a B+. There was a few things this week that brought it down a little bit. It was sort of like the pointless 8-man tag in there that brought the grade down. It was the Raw Underground that still feels like it hasn't really got any focus. But the irony is that Raw Underground, this thing that was brought in to be this sort of earthy, real bit of wrestling, was just completely overshadowed by Ric Flair and Randy Orton, making it very, very real in the main event. Best bit of the night was that main event bit. Roll on SummerSlam. Really great bit to end the show. And you know what? On the whole, very good episode of Raw. Big thumbs up over here. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.